I call her little MJ. She was born on Boxing Day. I still remember that day because I got a phone call from her mom. I've known her obviously since she was born. She's my niece. She's so special to me, and I have watched her turn into the most amazing, beautiful, strong woman. And I am so proud of her for being here today and sharing how she found strength in one of the hardest times in her life. Please help me welcome my niece, all the way from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Molly Micheli. Hi, Molly. It's great to thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me that you're brave and courageous enough to be able to share because you're young. How old are you?
I'm 19.
19-year-old to be able to come and share and be real and honest. That's a real big deal. I'm very proud of you, and you should be really proud of yourself for being able to do this, share, and be able to encourage like thousands of people. So thank you so much, Mo.
Thank you so much for having me.
My gosh, my pleasure. That's for sure. You've had lots of loss in your life. My dad, who is your Gigi, passed away when you were young, only 4. And then in 2010, your dad had a stroke, and Nona, my mom, was diagnosed with cancer in that same year, and you're only 13 years old, I believe. So that year alone was, I'm sure, a huge struggle, which we're going to talk about. And then when you're 16, Nona passed away. And that was the same year I was diagnosed with cancer in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's so many families out there that have diseases and sicknesses touch their life. And it's important that we talk about how it affects the family members, how it affects the children. And that's why I'm super thankful that you're, brave enough to come and talk today and share a little bit about your story, Molly. Do you remember what it was like back in 2014? No, was it 2010? Yes. When your dad had the stroke and Nona was diagnosed with cancer. Like how were you at that time? How did that make you feel?
It really felt like my whole world fell apart, to be honest. I was actually the one who found my father having his stroke, so it was a very real experience for me. And then it was just a week later, I believe, when Nona sat my mom and my brother and my family and I down, and she told us that she had cancer. And I just thought to myself, I said, like, what's going on? Like, why is all of this happening in just such a short amount of time? I had so many questions.
And so what went through your mind that time? Were you feeling abandoned, alone, confused? Like, what was going through your head at that time?
All of that. I think I felt very strongly abandoned for some reason. I felt like the people that were close to me in my life that I really cared for were starting to get taken away from me. Mm-hmm. And it was my first real experience of loss. Although I didn't necessarily lose anyone yet, it was still a loss in my life. I felt the loss coming, and it was super surreal for me. It's something I've never experienced before.
Taking back, when your dad first had a stroke, how did it affect the household at first?
It was completely turned upside down. He spent the next year in the hospital. So I spent a lot of time in hospitals with doctors. I always made sure I was standing by my mom's side because I know that she needed my support. So I was always there for her. I mean, I was there for my father, of course, but I always made sure that I was there to keep my mom strong because I know that this was something that was really hard on her too. So I always wanted to make sure I was there for her to lean on.
Mm-hmm. I know your mom is so strong.
Yeah.
Also my sister. Love her like to pieces. But you were like, you and your brother Max were so strong. It's one thing. I mean, when all this happened, I was already living in Texas.
Yeah.
So I wasn't there in Thunder Bay, and it was so hard to watch from afar when everything was happening, and I couldn't be there in person. And there's guilt that I still face for not being there. But I know I was where I was supposed to be at the time. I mean, I just had a newborn. Dylan was born in 2010. So I don't know what kind of help I would have been anyway if I was here. But when your dad came back to the house, were there any changes that happened in the hospital, or did changes start once your dad came back to the house?
I'd say there definitely were changes before he came back to the house because life at home looked a lot differently. He wasn't here, first of all. But it put a lot of strain like on our family because I felt like we couldn't spend time together as a family anymore, like my mom, my brother, and I, because we were always attending doctor's appointments. So there was always some sort of crisis going on. So I felt like I was in crisis mode for a lot of years.
So did you get to spend much time with your friends, or did you feel like you were either at the hospital with Nona, with your dad, or with your mom?
That's mostly what it felt like. And even if I did have the choice to go hang out with friends or something, I always felt like I needed to either go visit Nona or I needed to be with my mom to support my dad. I always felt like there was an obligation for me to do that. Definitely.
So things started changing. And did they change more when your dad came out of the hospital and was able to come back home?
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely when life changed. I want to say maybe for the worse. My mom decided to be my dad's caretaker, which I still look up to her every single day because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that took a lot out of her, and she's just such a strong person. I still can't believe that she did what she did. But her taking on the role of a caretaker, it was very interesting for me to watch, because it was my mother and my father, yet my mother was taking care of my father. And you don't really see that often, or I've never really like witnessed that before.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very different dynamic in the home, and it really changed dynamic for all of us.
In what way?
I think it put a strain on all of our relationships. And I mean that in our relationships with ourselves and our relationships with each other. So I feel that because so much time and so much effort and everything was put into caretaking my dad, that I think my brother, my mother, and I all kind of forgot about ourselves and forgot about what was best for us and best for us, for each other, and as a family.
Because if you're so busy looking after someone else, you don't think of what do I need? Because to be able to take care of somebody else, you have to be strong. And I know that your mom does not put herself first a lot, if ever. But you need to. Yeah. But that's why you need to be able to take care of somebody else to be able to have strength. But I could see you not having time for yourself. You're a teenager at the time. So when this all happened, you're 13. So and when you came back home, you're 14, 15, you're in high school, right?
Yeah.
How did it affect your high school at all? Did it affect any relationships with boys?
Yes to both of those. I definitely think because like when my dad came to live at home, I just started high school. So my life was changing altogether in general with that. Mm-hmm. And I felt like in my first few years of high school, I did rebel because of what was going on at home. And I think the reason for that is I wanted to find some sort of separation between being in that caretaker role and then just living my own life and being a teenager and trying to have fun and find myself and all of that. And I found it really difficult to do so. So I think that's why I did rebel in the first few years of high school. And I'm not going to say I regret that, because I think that everything happens for a reason. I really do. But I think it really also affected my relationships, not just with boys, but with people in general. But I believe it kind of affected the trust that I had in others. I almost felt let down by the world. So I felt like I couldn't put my full trust into other people. And I'm still working on that today, but it's something I work on every single day.
So trust, that's interesting. So how did it affect your trust? Was it because the people that you loved in your life were getting sick, or is it because of what happened after they got sick?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think in the beginning, I almost just lost trust in the world, because I thought I was taking it personally. I was like, why are these things happening to me? You know what I mean? Like, why is it happening one after the other? Like, is something wrong with me? Am I doing something that's causing this? And, so I also believe that it affected my life when my dad came home, because my dad, before he had a stroke, he didn't spend a lot of time at home in the first place. He owned his own construction company, so he was not like home for a lot of the time anyways. We had an okay relationship, but it wasn't close because I never really got to spend the time with him.
Mm-hmm.
So having him be at home every single day was, first of all, just a lot. It was a big change because I never really saw him in the house usually because he was never really there. But it was him, it was his behavior that I think changed a lot of things. So when he came home from the hospital, and my mom started to take care of him, his negative behavior started to increase. So he started to become very abusive towards my mother and my brother and I. And I think that really has a lot to do with the trust that I have in people, because I thought my dad could be someone that I could trust and that I could believe in, and anything that would come out of his mouth, I would be able to trust. But it turned out that I wasn't able to do that, which just kind of showed me that just because the people that are put in your life, and that are your family necessarily, doesn't mean that you have to trust them, or that you have to because they're your family. I've found that it's changed my perception on the way I trust people. So I'm not trusting him just because he's my father. Down the road, I feel like if I were to get my trust back from him, he would have to prove himself. I wouldn't just be able to trust him again just because he is my father, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So it's just changed my perception on that for sure. Yeah.
Are there times that you feel you lost out on your teenage years or high school years because of what was going on at home?
I think when I first started high school, I think I tried everything to have my teenage years, and maybe that's why I rebelled a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I believe that I did for sure lose some of my teenage years personally. I did try to spend a lot of time with friends because I wanted to remove myself from my house, and I really wanted to just, get away from everything. But in doing that and pushing myself away from my home and my family life, I think I also pushed myself away from myself, and of who I really am and what I want to do and all of that.
That's deep for a 19-year-old to say. Not even 19, but most people don't even, it takes them years and years to realize that. And the fact that you're realizing that at 19 it's impressive to me. You had said that your dad was abusive when he was back in the home. Who were you, when that was happening, was there somebody you were able to go to talk to about it? Like, how did you find your strength in dealing with that day in and day out?
I honestly think that I can speak for both my mother and myself, that we found strength through each other, that we were always there for each other, and we made sure of that we knew, because we always said to each other that we're really the only ones who are aware of what's really going on inside the house, because it was just my mother, my brother, and I, and my dad. So we were really the only ones who fully understood the abuse and how it was affecting us. And I think being able to have such a great relationship with my mom was absolutely how I found strength in my storm. Absolutely.
And I know you were a huge blessing to your mom too. Like I said, you just said it. Nobody knows because you're not in the house. You can try and say something, but unless you're living it day in, day out, there's nothing you can explain to somebody else that they'll completely understand.
Absolutely.
There's just not.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that people did when you're going through this, like through high school? Was there anything that friends did or people or family that they did that helped you or that encouraged you?
It's really simple, but I always really liked getting text messages or calls, and just for them to say, I'm here for you, and if you ever want to talk, like, my ears are open. And I felt like that was always something that really, really helped me to get through, because I felt like there were people that were there for me, that wanted to listen to me and that cared about my situation.
That's a big deal. Yeah, it's really important. How about the opposite? Was there anything that people were doing during that time that made it harder for you, even though it wasn't intentional for them? Was there anything that...
Well, coming from a very small city, I would say the hardest part about going through all of this was having people throughout the city ask about my father and ask about his well-being and ask all these questions. And because my father was, I don't want to say well known, but lots of people knew my father and still do. So I felt like I was always getting questions about, oh, how's your father doing? Oh, how is this? And it was never towards me. It was never, how are you doing? How are you handling the situation? It was always just like, how is his health? You know, how is he doing? And it kind of, like, at first I was okay with it, but as the years went on and it kept going and it never stopped, I felt like it was triggering for me. Absolutely.
It's interesting you bring that up. Uncle Aaron felt the same way. Like when I was going through cancer, people always came up to him, how's Michelle? How's Michelle? And no one ever asked how he was. Yet he's the caregiver, you know, just like you guys were. He was in the day in, day out. He had so much to put up with. And there's times he said to me, I just wish someone would say, how are you doing, Aaron? What can I do for you? And that's super powerful. And there's somebody sick in the family. It's not just that one person. It affects the whole family. It's not one person. The whole family is involved, and the whole family needs prayer. The whole family you need to reach out to each one and say, how can I help you? Let's go out. Let me take you for lunch. It's really important you share that, because people need to know it's not just the one person. They're living it every single day.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. If you knew that someone was going through this right now, if you knew somebody that was in high school, that one of their parents was going through like a stroke, some kind of sickness, what would it be that you would say to them to encourage them, or one piece of advice that you wish you would have known when you were going through it?
I think I would say, I really wish someone would have told me to focus on myself, although reality and everything else is happening. And it's something that's super simple, but I feel like if someone would have maybe mentioned that to me and brought that up to me in years prior, that I feel like maybe I would have been in this spot maybe a couple years back, you know, because I feel like having yourself and having trust in yourself is the one thing that you need to have in order to deal with everything else in life.
That's good advice, to focus on yourself and put yourself first. Now, you'd mentioned before that you were forgetting who you were. So does that mean now that you've sort of learned more about who MJ is, who Molly is? And if so, who is that? What have you realized over the last few months or over the last year?
I think I know a better idea of who I am. I'm not going to say I know exactly who I am, because I think I'll be working on that for the rest of my life, which is exciting. But in the last year, I've really realized how empathetic of a person I am, and how much I really love people. And I'm driven by people in general, the energies I get from them, and the way that they make me feel. And it's interesting because I guess not a long time ago, when my dad first got sick, I had an attitude of, I don't care, I don't like this, I don't like that. I never wanted to make a decision about anything. And now the most exciting thing for me is that I get to make my own decisions about my own life and create the life that I want.
That's amazing. It's amazing. So what are you taking in school? Do you want to share what you're taking in school, or what you're going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm taking the social service worker program at Confederation College in Thunder Bay, and I absolutely love it. It is my passion. It is absolutely my passion, is helping people.
So proud of you. I have a question to ask you that probably other people are thinking is, when there was abuse going on in your home, whether it be negative words, things like that, how were you able to replace that negativeness with positive so that it didn't affect you? Or are you still doing that today?
So this is something that I've learned in school, and it's something called reframing. So what we're told to do is take that negative thought or that negative idea and change it to be positive. Now, it sounds simple, but sometimes it can be really difficult. But it's really just, it's honestly changing the words, the way that you're speaking about whatever you're speaking about. It's the attitude that you have behind those words and behind what you're saying is what really affects the positivity. So if you have a negative mindset, even if you think that you're going to say something positively, it might still come off negative if you're feeling negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like having positive thoughts has a lot to do with having a positive attitude.
Absolutely. I agree 100% because that's a choice you have, right? You have the choice to be in something and go through something and make a choice to see the positive in it and learn and grow and go and help others, or you have a choice to just dwell on it and poor me and right. I mean, we have that choice. And you at a young age made a choice to take something that could have been like detrimental and turn into something super positive where you're going to go and help other people. And I'm so beyond proud of you for doing that. I'm
proud of myself too. I never thought I would be in this position. Honestly, like 7 years ago, I would have never seen myself here, but I'm very grateful that I have been through the things that I have been through, although lots has been negative. It's the way you look at it, right? So mm-hmm. I'm taking the positives out of the negatives, and I'm trying to do something about it and change my world, which will hopefully change the world in general.
Yes. Oh, well, 100% you're going to change the world. I know you are. I have another question for you. Now, do you have a relationship now with your dad?
We do, yes. I don't see him on a constant basis or anything, but we do have, I would say, a positive relationship. So we are on good terms with each other, and we do speak to each other often.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. So which leads to, so you have been able to forgive him.
I think that has been my biggest struggle the past year since he actually moved out of our house. So we've been living alone now for two years without him, and I've had a lot of clarity. And it feels like I can do anything.
That's good. Maybe that needed to happen so that you guys could all mend yourselves, like from the inside out, and build your relationships back up.
I think so too. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, it just goes to show that, you know, we're all always going to go through storms. Some of us you went through them early, right? Some will go through later in life, but they're all through life. And you're showing that no matter what age, that when you make that choice, that you can persevere and overcome and do something amazing to help other people, which is what you're doing. When are you supposed to be graduating?
This June.
This June. And then you get to go out and change the world.
Yes, I do.
Somebody reach out to you. Maybe they're going through something or know somebody's going through something similar. How could somebody reach out and connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. I encourage that because I love talking to people, and I would love to help others if I can. So you can contact me with my email, I think would probably be best. So that's Molly J. Micheli, MICHIELI @gmail.com.
Okay, great. I'll make sure that we have it on the screen. So if anybody wants to connect, they can do that.
For sure.
MJ, I just want to honor you and thank you so much for being here today and sharing and just being open and honest. It's not easy talking about a parent. It's not easy talking about something you've gone through when you're 13 years old. So to be brave enough to do that and to be how you are a 19-year-old strong, amazing woman, I'm so proud of you, and you're an inspiration to me. I couldn't be more proud of you. And I know that this is going to help many people. There's people that, sickness affects so many families, and the fact that they can feel like they're not alone, or they can maybe realize what they can do to get help. This is going to help people and impact them. And I just thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Those of you that are watching, feel free to go to my website and download my 8 Steps to Strength. It's a free download. And if you wanted to have more one-on-one time with me, you can always connect with me at michelleprezan.com. And again, we're going to give you MJ's email address so that you can contact her if maybe you want to talk to her. Maybe you're a teen and you want to talk to someone who's been through something like that. Please reach out to her, because I know that it's in her heart to help you, and she will be a blessing in your life. That's for sure. So again, Molly, thank you again for being here. And I love you and I miss you. And I just know I am so beyond proud of you. I really am. You're amazing.
You too.
And thank you for being here this week. Please join us next week, where my prayer is to help you find strength in your storm.